NieR Replicant version 1.22474487139 released on PS4, Xbox One and PC on April the 23rd, and introduced fans of NieR Automata to the original masterpiece of despair. The remaster or upgrade improves the visuals and combat, along with full voice work, rearranged music, and new tracks. But perhaps most importantly, it adds new story content. No, we're not just talking about a new boss based on the Little Mermaid novella from Grimoire NieR. There's a brand new ending which is available after ending D once your save data has been deleted. Suffice it to say that major spoilers follow, so you've been warned. It also helps to have knowledge of the events of Drakengard 1 and 3 along with the NieR games, seriously. Before we begin, please consider subscribing and enabling all notifications by clicking the bell icon. With that out of the way, let's get started. After deleting one's save data, starting a new game with a new name will commence an entirely different route. It starts with Kain, who, despite being alive, suffers from nightmares and seems to recall losing something precious to her. She then embarks on her own and hears about shades in the Forest of Myth. Upon arriving in the forest, it appears to have been overrun with machines. After disposing several machine foes, Kain delves deeper into a tree, while two mysterious voices blame her for destroying the original Gestalt, causing the various Gestalts to run wild and slaughtering several replicants. Eventually, she arrives at a mysterious facility where two machine twins emerge and will look very familiar to those who played NieR Automata. These twins are the administrators of a data terminal and have long been watching and listening to the so-called recycled world, with the forest itself recording anything and everything about the world. Kain disposes of a machine boss before eventually fighting against android copies of herself created through masso particles. Before she's totally overwhelmed, Emil, thought to be dead, arrives to help her, eventually breaking through to a doorway that leads to that which was lost. This new area resembles the aesthetic of the copied city from NieR Automata. As Kain and Emil traverse its walkways, they both have the feeling of forgetting something really important. They come across a replication of the Shadow Lord's castle and battle the core frame of the forest, which stores a great variety of information, including Kain's lost memories. As she damages the frame, the forgotten protagonist's voice rings out. Upon destroying the frame, Kain suddenly ends up in a virtual space that encompasses her memories, with her health bar looking more like that from NieR Automata. She battles shades along with reconstructed versions of old bosses, including Hook, who killed Kain's grandmother. Old memories of abuse at the hands of different villagers begin to emerge before Kain eventually collapses. What follows is a text adventure where she awakens in the Eyrie. Her grandmother is alive, and everything seems well. Of course, this doesn't last, as the village, its residents, and eventually her grandmother are all obliterated. Just when things seem hopeless, however, who should speak out but Grimoire Weiss, who reminds Kain of her goal. Suddenly, she's back in the virtual space, with Weiss by her side, ready to fight Hook with magic. The duo eventually take it down, and the administrator twins begin to dissipate, awed by the potential of a replicant. They note that possible futures are blending with the time we currently inhabit, before remarking that they hear a song. Kain then finally remembers the protagonist and all of their trials and tribulations, together while cursing him to finally return. She then comes across the protagonist's body, and the player is given the choice to recover the person they cherish most. The deleted save data from ending D is restored, and everything from the menus, weapons collected, and abilities to the maps and tutorials returns. Grimoire Weiss departs and a giant flower resembling a lunar tear blooms. Kain and the protagonist are in the middle of it, with the latter reverting to the state in which they first met. Kain and Emil then speak about the past being a mistake and the journey being meaningless, but vowing to carry on, even if the world ends, for the sake of those they cherish. There is a lot to unpack here. You could just call this ending an attempt to provide some kind of happy conclusion for NieR Replicant fans. However, it's actually based on another novella from Grimoire NieR called The Lost World. This story sees Cain venturing to the Forest of Myth and encountering the Overseer, who states that the forest is actually a computer where the ancient people studied the demonic element, implied to be meso, and quantum physics. The Overseer is an existence akin to Grimoire Weiss, who apparently controls all of the demonic elements, along with the life and death of the Gestalts and Replicants. He notes that the world is a failure, and that robots and humans aren't needed. After Cain fights to recover her memories of the protagonist and save him, the Lunar Tier is formed and they're reunited. However, in NieR Replicant version 1.22474487139, the whole route serves to directly connect the game to NieR Automata, specifically with the Administrator twins. These are theorized to be number 2 and number 9, which would form the basis for 2B and 9S, as their appearances imply. The fact that Kira Buckland and Kyle McCarley return to voice these characters lends further credence to this theory. This is where things get a little weird though. The flower seen at the end could just be a giant lunar tear, which appears throughout NieR. However, it also resembles the flower from Drakengard 3, which bloomed in its protagonist Zero's right eye and was responsible for much of the evil events in that game. When all was said and done, the Accord revealed that the flower had been sealed. She then adds that it may reappear in another time and place, while Zero, who had followed the flower to bloom within her, could still be alive. Drakengard 3 is a prequel though. In Drakengard 1, the antagonists are the Watchers, whom the Empire tries to summon by breaking the seals, and thus having them destroy Midgard. In the 5th and final ending, Cain and his dragon Angelus fight against the Queen Beast, theorized to be Zero from Ending D of Drakengard 3, in modern-day Tokyo. The death of the dragon and the giant, as they were referred to in NieR, would directly lead to the creation of Meso, Project Gestalt, and the Legions, among other things. Given that the Watchers could be summoned by the Intoners, whom Zero fought against in Drakengard 3, along with their disciples, it seems like a decent enough connection between the two games, right? However, things are never that simple. In the book Drakengard 3 The Complete Guide Plus Settings, where novelist Eishima Jun, who wrote the Drakengard 3 side stories, novelist Matsushita Ayaki, and NieR and Drakengard scenario writer Notori Sawaka discuss the connections between Drakengard 1 and 3. As per Eishima, Taro never said that any of Drakengard 3's endings directly tie into Drakengard 1. Ending A of the former is connected to Drakengard 1.3, a series of short stories within its own timeline and continuity separate from the first game. Something or other happens in each branch of Drakengard 3 that makes it impossible to directly connect to Drakengard 1. The only real clue seems to be the Intoners, their relationship with the Watchers, and Zero potentially being the Queen Beast. Let's go back to Ending E of NieR Replicant version 1.22474487139, where the twins talk about possible futures blending with the time we currently inhabit, and then hearing a song. The first part could refer to Cain's actions creating a new timeline, which wouldn't be too far off, considering the number of changes that have happened based on different endings and branches in the previous games. This could be the new timeline where the flower re-emerges, playing off of a set of possibilities and results occurring after the dragon and the giant died. As for the song, the Intoners were capable of harnessing the power of songs, which granted immense fighting strength and unique abilities. It can also be used to bring back the dead. The Queen Beast in Drakengard 1 was also capable of wielding the power of songs, and it's known that the flower can resurrect its host. Assuming the flower was still within Zero when she theoretically became the Queen Beast, it's possible that it wasn't completely destroyed by Angelus. The twins hearing a song could be in reference to the flower singing. It's also worth discussing singularities, the beings capable of creating new branches. Whenever a timeline is split into a new branch, it's called a shift. These can only be triggered when a certain amount of Meso has been gathered, as per Eishima in the guidebook. A singularity isn't recorded as such until a new branch is created. So it is possible that Cain became a singularity like Zero and caused a shift in the NieR Replicant version 1.2247448739 timeline, but only after the fact. So to roughly summarize, Drakengard 1 is confirmed to tie into NieR Replicant's ending D, which leads to NieR Automata. However, slight aspects of Drakengard 3 presumably tie into Drakengard 1 and seem to connect to NieR Replicant's ending E. This is speculation though, and there are many more questions to ask with how ending E was ultimately handled. If a new timeline has theoretically been created and the twins have been eradicated, then do the events of NieR Automata not take place? The short stories which do lead directly to Automata only have the singular overseer of the Forest of Myth. What was the point of including number 2 and number 9 if they were only to be removed from the equation? Perhaps these aren't even the true versions of the twins, especially since the Yorha androids first entered development in the year 11,937, while NieR Replicant's story began in 2053. Does Cain have any direct connection to Zero? The android copies of her having glowing right eyes, the same location where the flower resided on Zero, wasn't exactly subtle. So now for the real question. Could there be another sequel that carries on events after ending E? As is usually the case with Yoko Taro's works, it's definitely possible. That being said, it may not even be a direct sequel, instead tying in through various other ways while presenting its own unique tale set hundreds or thousands of years later. Taro's approach within Drakengard's continuity indicates a desire to not directly connect everything, instead presenting bits and pieces while leaving its fans to draw their own conclusions. Drakengard 1, NieR, and NieR Automata deviated from this by being directly connected to each other, though again through different endings. One thing is for sure though, as the themes of identity, existence, and love persist through each game, so too will the unending cycle of hope and despair. There are still so many potential threads to explore, from the Accords to the true nature of the Seeds of Destruction. At least we can rest assured that throughout it all, Taro and friends will find some way to utterly ruin our emotions yet again. So what are your thoughts on this? Go ahead and share them in the comments below. And if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel and enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon to get new video updates. We upload every day and would really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching.